Hello and welcome back everyone to, unfortunately, another week in American politics. I was hoping we'd wake up in like a different universe, but it's the same one in a lot of the same fundamental frustrating ways. But anyway, you know, is also the same but is good. Co-host today, Francesca Fiorentini is here. How's it going, Francesca?
Never missing a Monday, although
nope.
You know, I may have to miss a Monday. We should talk, but no, hi.
You know, I was literally, as you began that, I thought, you know what? One of the nice things about the pandemic is you doing every Monday, that started as a pandemic thing. That wasn't like a thing, but I now, like that's one of the things that keeps me going is that I can count on that.
Me too, you're my touchstone. Great. Sunday night, I'm nuts. By like Monday, I'm like, oh, thank God, touchstone.
Awesome. I heard good things about the Bitchuation room yesterday. People are talking in my live streams.
Oh, the chatter is so loud about TBR. Yeah, it was really fun. We talked about relieving student debt, talked about aliens, talked about, you know, minority rule and you know, everything you talk about on a Sunday night.
Exactly, that sounds fun. I watched Stranger Things. But anyway, okay, so everybody, we got a lot of news that we're gonna be getting to, and thank you for joining us regardless of what platform you're on. There's probably something you can do that's like liking. It might actually be liking, but I might just be liking. But if you could do that, I would like that or like that so that people know that the stream is live. And if you wanna send us tweets or comments or super chats or anything like that, we'll be responding as we go. With that said, we've got a ton of news, so why don't we jump right into it? I wanna show you some videos that show good things happening, good news for America. It's been a very long time, I'm very excited, so I'm just gonna jump into it. Take a look at this.
I'm ready. Let's do this.
That video, and especially if you're on the podcast and you don't know what we're talking about, that was Sandra Lindsay, an intensive care unit nurse at Long Island Jewish Medical Center in Queens, New York, who became the first person in the US to receive a public coronavirus vaccination when she got her first of 2 Pfizer COVID-19 shots. So she's gonna need the second, of course, and it's gonna take a little bit to kick in, but that is good news. Someone has actually gotten it, and you know, you're probably thinking, that's great. I'm glad, I want a nurse to get it, but also you might be thinking, well, but what about me? When am I gonna get it? Well, we got a little bit more good news. Take a look at this video. That's not just like Christmas presents or whatever, which would be good news of its own. No, that is stocked like full of vaccines, doses of the vaccine that are now shipping on out. And so Francesca, people are getting a vaccine. It's being distributed around the country. Things are looking somewhat up.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think that the video of the nurse administering the first vaccine is historic and awesome, and the fact that it is an African-American nurse administering it to an African-American ICU worker, like that should not be lost on people. 2 Black women who are on the front lines of this fight, and I think in a country that has historically let the Black community suffer, that is this COVID virus has disproportionately affected the Black community, that historically when it comes to trust in the United States government or the medical system, Black Americans have a lot of reason to not trust it. So just the layers of meaning on that very moving moment. And kudos to the ICU nurse for not what I would have done, doing what I would have done, which is immediately going like, just making some, no, just kidding. It's all good, I'm not the Hulk. I wish I was.
And credit to the other nurse or doctor for not having trouble finding the vein. That would have just ruined the whole thing. No, they got it on the first try and it's working, it's good news, yes. You know, it's obviously a pandemic that has been devastating in every conceivable way, in many ways that we would not have conceived of. But obviously, it's been even worse for brown and Black Americans because our government is our government And that's the way things go, unfortunately. And so it's good to see this, definitely. But let's also bear in mind that all of the devastation, everything, at large for Black and brown Americans, nobody's responsible for it. That's the amazing thing about it. So many people have died and it's not anybody's fault. And nobody gets in trouble. And I'm getting sidetracked and I'm gonna try not to, but it does still amaze me that we have found like the biggest period of loopholes for murder in the history of mankind. You're just allowed to do stuff that gets tons of people killed and nobody's in trouble. That's sort of weird, but it's good news. I'm gonna end this part with a quote from Sandra Lindsay, the nurse who got it. She says, "I feel like healing is coming. I hope this marks the end to a very painful time in our history." Well, it marks at the best case scenario, the beginning of the end, because as of yesterday, still like 2,500 people had died in the daily reporting, but it does mark the beginning, hopefully, of the end towards full vaccination, and that is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, the trucks don't give me any kind of hope whatsoever because we know that those are 2 trucks you showed, and we will need a lot more than 2 trucks. And in fact, as I know you've reported, this administration has passed on millions and millions more doses, hundreds of millions more doses of the coronavirus vaccine. So there's that. And then there's the other thing, which is, she is the first person to get the vaccine publicly. What about all what about all the billionaires who've gotten it privately somehow? Like what about the people who aren't telling anyone when all the first doses, these 50 millions, there's enough for 50 million people to be inoculated currently, or that will be coming in. Those should all be frontline healthcare workers. And if we've reached the limit with healthcare workers, then essential workers, right?
Yeah.
Yes, grocery baggers. Yes. People who work at Walmart, yes, post office workers. Like, so is that gonna happen? Probably not.
Like if you work at the drive-in at McDonald's, like you have been at risk every day along the way. A world that gives it to Elon Musk before that person working the drive-in at McDonald's is the world we live in, and not a world I want to live in. But unfortunately, this is the one we have. Yeah, every single billionaire is gonna get it. There's gonna be some like Public Integrity is gonna do an expose in a year about how doctors had secret back channels for it, but it's happening right now. It's definitely gonna happen. The only good thing is if like some of the celebrities we like also get it because they're rich and like, I want A.D. Bryant to get the vaccine, okay?
Sure.
But unfortunately, it also means a lot of Wall Street people are probably gonna get it anyway. Now that said, let's turn now to you and I, because we're not billionaires, we're not rich. Like we're not spending long periods of time in the south of France. Anyway, let's turn now to the rest of us. When will we be able to get the vaccine? Well, HHS Secretary Alex Azar was asked about that in the news, and here's an idea of how many will be vaccinated at what time in the next few months.
We have vaccine available to get to 20 million people by the end of December, and then a total of 50 million by the end of January. And as Dr. Slawi said, 100 million people by the end of March, but we'll actually have 100 million shots in arms by the end of February between first and second doses. Today's it's such a historic day as we hopefully see the light at the end of the tunnel of this horrible pandemic and the toll of human suffering that we have seen.
Okay, so those are big numbers. Of course, we have to remember that with the Pfizer vaccine, it is a 2-shot thing. You have to take it and then go back and take it a little bit later on. But I'm not 100% sure about Moderna. I think Moderna is one, but we also have coming up in just a couple of weeks, there's gonna be data coming in for 2 other vaccines that are being worked on. It is possible of those, if they are shown to be effective, could be approved, and then those numbers could be even higher than Alex Azar was talking about there. But the idea that 100 million could be vaccinated by the end of March in just a few months, that's a good chunk of the US population. And then when you add to it the probably 15 to 20% of America that will have already gotten the virus because of the failure of our government, that is a good portion of the way to herd immunity. Thankfully, most of the way you're supposed to get it through vaccinations, not just rampant infections.
Yeah. I mean, it is weird though to be like, and I think even Pelosi said like help is on the way, now that the vaccine is here, but and like the things we have been through, that's the wrong tense to use, Alex Azar. Like we are going through, we will continue to go through. Like and you've asked this before on the show, and I think it's something that stuck with me, and we should all be asking ourselves, which is the darkest day? And the answer is we still don't know that. We won't know that because it actually keeps getting worse. And so once again, yay vaccine. Can we please get mass testing, quarantining, contact tracing, and then mask wearing and et cetera. But like, these are once again things that we do not have. But yay, vaccine. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I add him to the list of everyone who's talking about this thing in the past tense. Like, okay, I guess maybe if you're rich and all that, like it's like, hey, we don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, no, you weren't worried about it anyway. No, it's not over. The worst days are, as you said, still to come. But I want to give just a little bit more information for people who, okay, so it's going to be distributed. Okay, but like, how are you gonna get it? Like, do I have to set up some sort of appointment? Do I have to hope that I'll be prioritized? Well, the fundamental question is, when can I go to CVS and just get it? That's what will actually help people. And they move to that topic here.
I think we could be seeing that by late February going into March. It really, again, is going to be up to our nation's governors. But with the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine, we'll have, as I said, as many as 100 shots in arms by the end of February. And if we get the Johnson & Johnson or AstraZeneca vaccine approved in January, when their data comes in, we'll have significant additional supplies. And again, late February, in the March time period, I think you'll start seeing much more like a flu vaccination campaign, people going into their Kroger, their CVS, their Walgreens.
The general population.
Walmart. Yeah.
Wow.
So it is looking like, assuming that actually bears out and there aren't huge supply chain issues or distribution issues or new concerns about side effects or anything, probably within a month or so of after the year anniversary of sort of the lockdowns going into effect, we could possibly get the shot that will enable us to go back about our daily lives. After like 13
how
months.
about all of these companies give us meds under $10 for the next 6 months until they're able to roll out the vaccine completely, yeah? Why don't they just lower the price of like insulin and Humira and things like that, and things that people need pretty much every day and are being gouged for? How about we just make a little deal ski, Bernie would have won. What was I gonna say? Here's what I would also just like to say about the vaccine. I think it is not okay to just roll out like you've got Pfizer, Moderna that had like a deal with the Trump administration, which seems to be in part why they passed on the Pfizer additional vaccines. And now you've got Johnson & Johnson. What's the difference between these vaccines? Is there a difference? What's in them? What does it do? Like, I need Fauci and a lot of charts. Like, yes. Obviously I believe in science. I guess I trust science, but I also think that we also, we're told this would take way longer than it's taken. And I'm not a scientist, so I don't understand what vaccines, like what is in this and how was it developed. And so I think that should be general knowledge.
Sure. Yeah, and I think, hopefully like some doctors that are generally trusted, like Dr. Fauci, will be talking about that, and as much as like it's a stunt to have like Obama take it, like if he takes it, theoretically, he knows that it's safe or whatever. But yeah, the thing about how long it takes is, I think there's been a bit of confusion about why it was going to take long. One of the reasons that it takes so long is that generally there are multiple cycles of tests to test long-term side effects and everything like that are very carefully watched, and that takes a long time. That was sped up. Like they were willing to get it out there because it was killing so many people. In terms of when the thing was actually developed, the articles are out there, you can read them. I don't have them with me, but I don't know if it was Pfizer or Moderna, but the basic design for it was actually finalized before US deaths from COVID. Like, it was relatively fast to make, it just had to be confirmed that it actually worked and be tested for literally months and months and months. But the actual process to make it was pretty quick. And so thankfully, it is coming. Although again, we'll still see. I mean, like Alex Azar is giving us some good numbers, but I don't know, Redfield was saying fall. So March and fall are different. They're very different, so we'll have to see.
What's between March and fall? Like, is it 10 years or 15? I can't remember.
Like 15 years.
Right, that's what I thought.
Now, before we move on to other news though, and we do have other news coming, let's see what's going on in the audience. Seth Derby was first with a super chat saying, I've always wanted to be the first super chat. I think I got it this time. You did. Thanks, John and Fran, for being a beacon of light in such a dark year. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Seth Derby. Appreciate that. Franklin Sharpslicer says, the silliness of people I must relate. Texas wants to secede. Would they get a wall? Would it have a gate? Acting like the KKK, burning what's not yours. You're no longer welcome on freedom's shores. My forefathers came here to give bigotry the sack. We're done with such nonsense and we're not going back. John and Fran, do well or as well as you can. Franklin, thank you very much for that.
Wow, I like that one.
That was a good one, yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Rob Shively says, I claim dangerously depressed dragon, current COVID symptoms, unemployment, new age cross burning. Franny, is that a taco cat over your left shoulder? And is that an open can of hobo beans over your right shoulder?
Yes and yes.
Nice,
it's
awesome.
Definitely a taco cat that I personally won at a carnival, and I never win at anything because the hand-eye coordination not so good with me. But the beans, no, it's a succulent. It's something trying to be a succulent, but there's no light in here.
Nice. No, never. We're on YouTube. We don't go out in the light.
No.
Anyway, thank you for that, Rob. And sorry about the symptoms that you're experiencing. Jackson Kissling says, love TDR Mondays. I'm here to claim the meta lord of all dragon names, Arbitrary Dragon. Well, it's yours, Jackson. Thank you for the super chat. Over on Twitch, Obi Mom Kenobi gifted 10 tier 1 subs. Thank you for that. Vision of Grace resubscribed and sent us a heart. Thank you, Vision. Let's see, Zengalis converted from a Prime Gaming sub to tier 1 and says, hey, Dragon Squad. Hi, Fran.
What's up?
For that. Cisco Dragon, Cisco Kid, sorry, resubscribed for the 6th month. Thank you for that. Atomic and subscribed for 6 months. We got a bunch of 6-monthers going on here. Depressingly, that doesn't even take us back to the beginning of the pandemic. Anyway, Big Bull Dragon says, Franny on TDR, the reason Mondays don't suck. Very good news. And Sexy Melly B says, can everyone please be there for our fellow dragon Eddie? His mom has been hospitalized by COVID and he's being tested. Very bad news. Sorry about that, Eddie. Hope that you get through without having it and that your mom gets better soon.
Yeah.
And Platinum Yeti also gifted subs. Thank you for that. Now, that said, why don't we jump into other news, dark of a different variety. As of today, the Electoral College is doing its Electoral College thing. They have begun to meet and cast their votes. Vermont's electors were actually the first in the nation to vote, giving the state's 3 electoral votes to Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. So that is good news. We are now one step closer to being done with this thing, but that doesn't mean the efforts to overthrow it aren't done. With Donald Trump going on a tear, tweeting, swing states that have found massive voter fraud, which is all of them, cannot legally certify these votes as complete and correct without committing a severely punishable crime. I don't know what that means or what he would do, but he is arguing that states will have committed crimes. Anyway, then yada yada yada. You go through a whole bunch of tweets, and he ends with, "Therefore, votes cannot be certified. This election is under protest." Oh, good. So you found a protest you like. That's good. So it's under protest again. I don't know what that means. I mean, hypothetically, you could take it to court, and they have. The Supreme Court of Wisconsin just rejected them this morning, leaving them 1-59 in court, which is really bad. To put it in perspective, in like an alternate universe, that's my MMA record. Like that's how bad it is. 1-59.
Wait, John. So you're saying there's a chance?
I could find one person I could sucker punch or something. Anyway, and so the last step that remains after this, now that we've got the Electoral College voting, is a January 6th meeting of Congress to count and certify the electoral votes. Trump's allies in the House are promising to inject some drama into that process by challenging Biden's win in Congress, but it'll most likely basically be a filibuster, which will delay it for a few hours. Or maybe it'll result in a process where each state gets to vote and then they get to choose Trump, even though the voters rejected him and democracy is done. It's a small chance, but there is still a chance that our country's dead. So look forward to that coming up in just a few weeks.
I really hope that AOC also takes the floor and reads an alternate version of Green Eggs and Ham and is just like, Trump did not win on a box with a fox or on Fox News. He did not win Sam I Am, whatever, Uncle Sam I Am. Like the whole, just put it on its head. Make it a performance. But like what that means is that we are not done seeing every Republican just lick all the boot and brown all the nose or nose all the brown, whichever happens. The point is like both are bad. It's gonna be so pathetic. And they've already started to turn after the Supreme Court struck, the Texas AG's attempt down to contest the election. A lot of Republicans have been like, let's pack it in, but like there is still more pathetic displays of sycophantry ahead.
Yeah.
And wow, like what do we get? Like, is it a little bit like what happens when it's all over? Are we just gonna be like, okay, cool. Anyway, moving on. Like there's no accountability, clearly. I'm just wondering what happens when it's all over.
Yeah, I mean, we'll try to move on and turn to, pushing Joe Biden to do the right thing and actually have a government again. But they're still gonna be out there. And the reason that there's still this nonsense, including nonsense, which we're gonna turn to in a minute with videos, is it's that the grift continues. There is money to be made, there is followers to get, there is loyalty to profess. It's all grift and it's bad for you, to sort of quote, a famous name in comedy. It's all grift, and they have to continue to show that they are the good ones, and whoever falls off is the bad. Like there's a reason that, like they've been yelling Fox News sucks, and then this last weekend they were saying Fox News conspired. The My Pillow guy said Fox News conspired with the Democrats to take Trump out because they've like asked him a tough question or two over the last few years. Like this is all how it works. You can only get to the top of the heap by stabbing people along the way. And so they're all getting their knives in while they still can.
Wow.
But anyway, let's turn to, I was gonna call it substantive. It's not really substantive, but another development on this coming from the Trump camp. So as the electors are out there casting their ballots in the Electoral College, there's a shadow version of that process apparently going on. And we learned that this morning thanks to Goblin Stephen Miller.
The only date in the Constitution is January 20th. So we have more than enough time to right the wrong of this fraudulent election result and certify Donald Trump as the winner of the election. As we speak today, an alternate slate of electors in the contested states is going to vote, and we're going to send those results up to Congress. This will ensure that all of our legal remedies remain open. That means that if we win these cases in the courts, that we can direct that the alternate slate of electors be certified. The state legislatures in Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania can do the same. And likewise, Congress has that opportunity as well to do the right thing.
Okay, so a lot of that at the end was just a repeating of their general strategy, which is we lost the vote, so we want the states or Congress to just say Trump is the winner no matter what. It's fundamentally anti-democratic, but we're past that now. The alternate slate of electors, I don't know what that is. Like I know that that's a strategy, that they just choose random people and say that they're the official electors when they're not. I guess that's their legal strategy going forward.
I mean, I talked to actually Larry Lessig about this on The Conversation specifically, and was his argument, like kind of like it's not over yet. This is the final card up their rotten little oil leaking sleeve that is begging and getting on state legislatures to be like, well, we're just going to send different electors who are loyalists to go vote for Trump rather than voting the way that their people voted and the way that they're, I believe, legally obligated to vote, at least democratically obligated to vote. So yeah, I mean, it's just incredible to hear Stephen Miller speak, because even Trump speaks with a certain amount of irony and like bombast, and Stephen Miller is just this locked in little snot-nosed kid who's like, this is going to happen and you're gonna let me do it. Like it is And you realize that he is the voice in Trump's head, and he's the only one who hasn't been fired or even been on thin ice with Donald Trump. And he is like his little, he's like the devil on his shoulder. I mean, Trump doesn't need one. He's all devil. He's mostly devil and Big Mac sauce. But like it is just so striking to hear somebody with zero irony or zero understanding of like the fact that their words do not actually. You're not speaking in reality, buddy. Like that's not actually gonna happen, but this is their last ditch effort. And we will see, will state legislatures try and do this? Because all the legal strategies have failed at this point. And in which case Congress, and I believe Mike Pence would also have a very big role to play. And we know that 126 Republican representatives, wanted to overturn the real election results. So I wouldn't put it past them.
Exactly, yeah, and that means that while it seems a long shot, it seems unlikely, like all of these have been, like they're 1 in 59 again. It still technically could happen, so we don't get to go to sleep, basically. Like, and it's just too consequential. Like it could mean that elections fundamentally don't matter, that the vote, I mean, even more than they already do. Like your vote already is only sort of second hand of concern anyway, thanks to the Electoral College. But now even that doesn't matter. And it's also a reminder that the way that they're riding this out, like we've now reached the period where it's gone on long enough, it's infested enough actual elected Republicans, regular Republican voters, right-wing media, alternative and even more insane right-wing media, that Democrats just don't get to win narrow victories in the future. It's not going to work. Like Trump got destroyed and they're fighting it to the bitter end. So just bear that in mind. If we ever have a close race in the future, that's gonna be fun. But anyway, I just wanted to play one short video that I found a little bit ironic. Newt Gingrich has mostly signed on to all of the conspiracy theories about voter fraud and all of that stuff. No, I'm not ready to move ahead just yet. Okay, I think we can. Yeah. Okay, I can see in the corner my producer's frustrated, but no, it's too good. I got to get to this stuff. I apologize. So we're gonna get to Newt Gingrich eventually, but I'm gonna stick with these videos for now because it's just too good. Most of us seem to have come to the conclusion some time ago that Donald Trump is not exactly a good loser. He's kind of bad at it. Karl Rove is starting to warm up to that position, as he'll make clear in this video.
What's his goal? If his goal is to lay the predicate to come back in 2024 and run again, he's helping himself at least gain the nomination. But I think in the long run, he's not helping himself or the country. America likes comebacks, but they don't like sore losers. And he is on the edge of looking like a sore loser and probably will look like it after January 6th.
I mean, that is just amazing. So look, I get that he would probably say, if you could get him to be honest, like, I'm trying to get through to Trump in the only way possible. And you gotta be like really comforting to this guy because he is just all raw red ego. But he's on the edge of appearing like a sore loser. The election was like 6 weeks ago and he got destroyed in a landslide. A landslide, the way he described it, when he got the exact same Electoral College margin in 2016, he called it a landslide. So I'm just using his words. He's on the edge, Francesca, of appearing like he might be a sore loser.
It's almost like there's a double standard for everyone else in this country, including his former opponent, Hillary Clinton, and him. It's almost like he sees himself as special and different, and that he's entitled to be treated differently. And it's like maybe he's above the law. Is that weird to say? This late stage, it's just, what I love about that quote, like Karl Rove is this weird like barometer for where the Republican Party is. Like I think one of the best reactions was when Obama won in 2012, I believe, and he was like, "What? I thought we'd rig this." I thought we'd suppress this. Like, I think he was like, we got to look at the numbers. So Karl Rove is like total crap, but he just explained the rationale for why Trump wouldn't concede anyway, which is like, I know he's trying to run again in 2024, and I know he is securing both a funding base and the nomination. Like that, there you have it. There you have it. He doesn't care what he looks like because again, he thinks he's different and special.
Well, yeah, and also because whether he gets it or not, it is true that what he looks like is entirely dependent on whether you have already accepted him as your Lord and Savior. Like,
yeah.
Should he be worried about looking like a loser? Well, he does look like a loser, unless
he is
you're
a
one
loser.
Of the. Well, he's also a loser, but he also looks like a bad loser. But if you're one of the millions of Americans who will never get enough of just hearing him say, they rigged it, they robbed me, like never seen before, like I couldn't take more than a few seconds of that willingly. But there are some people that just, they wanna hear him say that stuff for hours, and they will drive to a packed place full of disease to hear him go on stage and talk about it. And those people will never think that he looks bad, that he's being ungracious or whiny or pathetic, even though he is obviously those things. I mean, it just doesn't work.
You said that about, like, you brought up MMA. I don't know any fighters, but I do know that, like, if a fighter I liked lost and then spent the whole time being like, no, what ain't fair, I'd be like, shut up and train, dude. Like, shut up and do better. You lost, I watched it. Go away, hit the gym. Yeah. Whatever. Like, it's not, you can't keep whining about this or else I'm not gonna be your fan anymore. So I see that, but then again, I think even MMA might be less culty than MAGA politics.
Yeah, it's just a thing in politics now that because of either like fractionalization of the media, the fact that you can get media that's closer to exactly what you want to hear, combined with whatever, it's resulted in an increasing number of people who live in the blessed place that the person they like will never lose or be wrong or be bad.
Yeah.
And if that does happen, then they were robbed. And that is all that they are, is a belief that I like this person, so they're always right and can never lose. It's a sad position, but it's unfortunately becoming a more and more common position. And Donald Trump, he has gotten that, and it's working quite well for him. Anyway, let's move on to just a little bit more. This morning, I was surprised to see that a Fox and Friends interview that was apparently conducted over the weekend rolled out, and Brian Kilmeade, who doesn't always question Donald Trump, was willing to point out to him his massive legal failures so far, and that goes about the way you might have expected. Let's take a look.
1 second. They cheated like nobody's ever cheated before, and they got caught, just like the spying on my campaign got caught. They cheated like nobody's cheated before, and they got caught. So nobody can go in and say, oh, congratulations on running a good race. They didn't run a good race. They cheated. They dropped hundreds of thousands of ballots.
Right.
They did things that nobody's ever seen, and we caught them.
But your guys have been unable to prove it as of now. If something happens,
excuse me, we've proven it, but no judge has had the courage, including the Supreme Court. I am so disappointed in them. No judge, including the Supreme Court of the United States, has had the courage to allow it to be heard.
Okay, so just want to quickly note, as I will the rest of my life, and I know it doesn't matter, but man, he has got the weakest body language in the world. The fact that he keeps doing the little touches on Brian Kilmeade, and he keeps like, imagine if I did the show and I was like, well, when the Electoral College meets and then they vote, like, what would you think about me as a person?
You mean you just did me? You just did me talking normally because I talk with my hands all the time.
No, I'm Italian too. It's the specific things he does. The hand. Like the turning of the hand, the little points, the like putting his hands up as if he's scared and has to ward off the person that's talking to him. Like that is not an Italian thing. That's a bizarre thing. But anyway,
it's like a Trump vogue. It's a weird Trump vogue. Like, excuse me, and I don't know. You gotta be vote.
But anyway,
vote, fraud. Okay, yeah.
But Kilmeade there did say, then why can't you prove it to a judge? And he says, no, we have proved it. They just don't have the courage. No, but like that's not how proof works. But again, that is how grift works. Just say that you won. Not only did we win the election, but we won those legal challenges. Just the judge won't agree with us on that.
It's the most mafia, thing that I've ever seen. Like that's just straight out of The Sopranos. That scene, you're like, what I say, we won. Excuse me, we won. Yeah, but you lost in court. No. I just said we won, And like, Kilmeade is not even, I don't think he's looking at him in the face. He's sort of almost looking down or beyond him, because it is so painful to look that much ignorance in the face. And he's just being dressed down in the weirdest way, but he's being dressed down like a mob boss dresses you down. Because with this president, it's only you're with us or against us. And you either are a sycophantic, coddler, or you're not. And if you are a sycophantic coddler, you're a bad journalist, because you don't even get a single word in. You just get dressed down and spoken to. So, I mean, God.
He did point out the loss, and he's got to feel really weird because this guy that recently had COVID keeps touching him needlessly on the arm for some reason, and so he's probably going to be considered by Fox viewers to be a massive traitor because he pointed out that Trump has lost in court. But if that isn't enough to consign him to a media grave, he's also going to ask Trump about the inauguration.
So would you show up at the inauguration? Will you?
I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. We've done a great job. I got more votes than any president in the history of our country. In the history of our country, right? Not even close. 75 million, far more than Obama, far more than anybody.
Well, except for the one guy. The one guy got more votes than you, and he's going to be at the inauguration. I don't know. Again, it's the weakness. It's the no. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. I did good. Like he said, I'm not going to answer your question. I want to talk about how I did a good job. If I just scooped ice cream, and that was what I did. And by the way, for a long time, that was what I did as a caterer. And I just took any criticism of me to say, no, I scooped good. What would you think about me? And you should think at least as critically about the person. He's the most powerful person in the world. And he is just so committed to this nonstop congratulating himself for things that he didn't even succeed in.
John, you scooped good, all right? Just want to let you know.
Pretty good.
If anyone told you you didn't scoop good, you scoop good.
Thank you.
And I want you to know that. No, why are we asking him these questions anymore? The answer is no. Of course he's not going to go to the inauguration. He's not accepting reality. And yeah, it's like the storyline out of this election, one of them, there are a few, but one of them really on the Biden side is a historic number of people voted. Actually, literally the most in American history. Yes, we're a bigger country now, but the most people ever voted for Biden. And he just took that storyline and applied it to himself.
Yeah.
Untrue. No, we know what is he gonna chopper over to Mar-a-Lago and have some sort of massive cry fest, just like a little cuddle puddle, and everyone's gonna, I'm gonna be rolling in MAGA tears, obviously.
I don't like the use of cuddle puddle. That makes me uncomfortable. But anyway, yes, that is probably what he's going to do. And with that, I'm done with it. It's what is it, 40 more days? Do we have 40 more days of him?
No, less,
anyway.
I thought.
Is it less? Okay, well, a famous president anyway. Okay, so let's read a few comments and we'll move on to the runoffs, which are coming soon. The Centaur says, hang on, are they going to delay the delivery of my new Mac computer just for a vaccine to save millions? That is not how capitalism works. This is sort of oddly how capitalism works though, because apparently they're using FedEx and UPS, but they're not using the USPS. I don't understand that. I mean, I sort of do, it's Trump, but doesn't that seem weird? Shouldn't it be? Anyway, Indrajara says, can we please remind viewers that even people who have been vaccinated and or have had the virus can still be carriers. This is not a cure, it's a preventative. Sure, and also they could become infected with it themselves and have symptoms. Again, it's not 100% immunity or anything like that. It will massively improve things, but it's not here yet. And it's not going to totally get rid of the concern.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gianna H says, hi dragons, I'm an immunologist. The AstraZeneca vaccine is a huge blunder. They messed up their testing groups. Also, the monkey antibodies provide passive immunity. It doesn't last. Also, no evidence for lasting immunity after infection. Thank you, Gianna.
Oof.
Feed with Bacon says, love the show. Thank you for the super chat. Anyway, let's see. Can't always read everything, but thank you. for the super chat. And Pards, thank you for your super chat as well. Let's see. Biddy says, wow, I've tried multiple times to send a super chat and they refused. I must breach boundaries. New moon on Monday and a fire dance through the night. No more pedestals for abstinent lawmakers. You mean obstinate? I don't mind if they don't do it. I'm okay with that.
They're definitely incels as well.
There's definitely some incels. Yeah. Let's see. The Sing on the Left says, John, is there any way to get Dr. Abdul El Sayed to come on and speak about the vaccine now, either here or the main show to help boost confidence? I don't see why not. He's been on both this show and the Young Turks. Actually, Sophie, can you write down? We should have him on to come talk about that. That's a good idea. He's really busy lately. He's probably not going to come on, but that would be great to have him back on. Anyway, let's see. Steph Mott says, hospital finally called my mom. Her COVID test was negative. She just has a really bad flu whose symptoms mimic COVID. I'm so damn happy. That is awesome, Steph Mott. Very glad to hear about that. Okay, Fingerbell Pixie asks, will Trump's base take the vaccine? The ones who still think it's a hoax or no big deal? Maybe not. I think once it's available like CVS and the cost is so low, I think many will. Also, Pinkerbell Pixie pointed out that my concern about the nurse not finding the vein isn't true because it's an intramuscular vaccine. And to that, I would say, Pinkerbell Pixie, don't be that way. You know what I was saying. It was a joke. But anyway, thank you for your comments. Anyway, and with that, lots more to get to. And my God, is the hour going by fast. Let's jump back. I can see my producer is nodding. Yes, let's do this then. It is time to vote if you're in Georgia. The early voting in the 2 Senate runoffs has begun, and this is important. More than half of the record 5 million votes in the November 3rd general election were cast during its 2-week early voting period there in Georgia. Early and posting voting could be even more important because of the short time frame that voters have to request and send back ballots by mail. The period isn't as long. And it could also be important because there's going to be far fewer actual voting sites in most counties to go and vote in. But this is your heads up. If you're in Georgia, the future of the Senate is now in your hands. Hopefully you have already voted.
Yeah, we have the get your booty to the poll. My favorite get out the vote campaign. And with a bunch of erotic dancers, exotic. I don't know whether it's erotic or exotic. I never know. Many of them are exotic, strippers. And I love that. So yes, early voting has begun. And get your booty to the poll, do a little dance while you do it. Also, there's going to be, I know we're gonna talk about this, but there's the shenanigans only roll on. But I hope that some of the ridiculousness that the GOP has perpetuated around the reliability of this election will suppress some of the Republican voters who are like, nah, Loeffler and Perdue don't love my president. We will see. It's going to be tough though.
Yeah, look, I want everyone in America to vote, preferably based on an accurate idea of the facts, the stakes, and all of that. We're never gonna have that, of course, but I want it to be as easy as possible to vote in America. Not everyone actually agrees with that. And so, look, it's not gonna surprise most of you that the Republicans are against democracy. But when I make that case, I'm sure some mouth-breathing Republicans would say that no, that's not true. So when possible, I like to add a little bit more evidence to the pile. Here is Newt Gingrich saying, why is Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger working so hard to add drop boxes and take other steps to make it harder for Republicans to win? Is he really that intimidated by Stacey Abrams? That is, I want to be fair. I don't know what other interpretation of that tweet there is then. If more people vote, Republicans will lose. Is there another way to take that tweet from the former Speaker of the House for the Republicans?
I interpret it as, I am afraid of Stacey Abrams. That's really what he's saying. He says, we've seen the movement she's mobilized and the incredible voter turnouts in November and the massive registration that her organization has piloted. And yeah, I'm scared. So you need to remove like ballot boxes, which we've discussed for so long, also hurts Republicans. Republicans might not have an idea of who to vote for when it comes to their best interests, but some of them just want to drop off their ballot as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I'm trying to. AJ Nestor on Twitch said he said that out loud. Yeah, because again, like their voters understand. Like their voters back in the day maybe would have liked the sort of the idea, the narrative that the Republicans are in favor of democracy. They're the defenders of democracy and all of that. They still would have wanted the suppression, especially of black and brown voters, but they would have liked that. But now they get that that is not the way the country is working, either demographically or in terms of politics, in terms of how the parties can respond to the crises that are actually facing us. They know that if people are able to freely and easily register and vote, the Republicans won't win. And so one of two things is gonna happen. Either the Democrats are always going to win, or the Republicans are gonna have to actually change their policies. And with those as the two options, most Democratic voters are fine with suppression to stop either of those things from happening. And they don't mind the fact that it's totally open. That one of the highest profile Republicans in the country can just say more voting is bad for Republicans, and it's barely even news. Yeah. But anyway, I also saw a comment saying John registered to vote. Well, I don't live in Georgia. My brother does, but I don't live in Georgia. But you all should register to vote. So in addition to telling you to do that now, I also want to use this as an opportunity to let you know about the special event that's going to be airing later on today on the TYT network, the Georgia Get Out the Vote special, which is going to be hosted by myself and Benjamin Dixon. Along the way, we're going to be joined by Mondale Robinson, Justin Horowitz, Rashad Ritchie, Ida Rodriguez, Cenk Uygur is going to be there. Man, that's an awesome crew of people that are going to be there. And you can watch that at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time at tyt.com/live. And I'm sure also on our YouTube and our Twitch and everything like that. We're going to give you information about how to get involved, whether you live in Georgia or not. You can help this effort. We're gonna give you information about the stakes, about the people who are running and all of that. So hopefully people will be like all aboard, because this is really important. It couldn't get more important right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I'll say is, I think Gingrich also said the other day that, he repeated this line that America is not a democracy, we're a republic, which is like saying a poodle is not a dog, it's a canine. It's the same thing. Like republic just means you're not a monarchy. It's and democracy then means by the people, and it's virtually the same thing. But I was talking with Astra Taylor, who's this awesome, organizer and writer. And she has documented the way that the Republicans have leaned into the idea of minority rule. And the way that they, instead of in 2012, when they were told after Romney lost that they really need to expand their voting base with Latinos and African Americans, they were like, yeah, cool, nuh-uh. And they were, doubled and tripled down on essentially what is white supremacy embedded in the political system. And I think it's so fascinating because, as a lot of, as she and others point out, is that in the 80s, even Reagan was like, yay, democracy. And we're so used to democracy being sort of parroted and held up by people who ultimately don't believe in it, and suppress the vote and like don't want people of color to vote. But now they're not even saying democracy. They're just saying that it is actually bad. Democracy is bad. And the founding fathers, quote, never wanted democracy in the first place. And in fact, there's some grounds for that, but there's also, it seems like they did evolve on the question. But it is, let us never forget that like they're pivoting. They're pivoting because they can't win without regular suppression and regular cheating. So now the pivot is to messaging pivot. It's just, we should be suppressing and cheating because this country was always meant for landowning white men to have more of a say than everybody else. That's it.
Yeah. It's something more fundamental than democracy that they can claim to represent.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's a hidden extra level, like how Trump ran as he's gonna be an outsider. He's gonna clean out government, but then once he's in government, they have to clean out the deep state. There's another layer of it that I have to get. I'm still an outsider, even though we have all the political power in the country. Still an outsider. Anyway, let's turn to just a little bit more on these Georgia races. We are in just the closing weeks of these Georgia runoffs, so any big breaking news could be the thing that clinches it. And for Reverend Warnock, there's a little bit of bad news. I was on Twitter, and someone who works for the NRSC apparently unearthed a video from 2017 of Reverend Warnock, and that Republican was spreading this to destroy his campaign. And well, here it is.
While others were sleeping, members of the United States Senate declared war, launched a vicious and evil attack on the most vulnerable people in America. Herod is on the loose. Herod is a cynical politician who's willing to kill children and kill the children's health program in order to preserve his own wealth and his own power. Hope is in the air, but Herod is on the loose. The hopes and the fears of all the years have met in Veep tonight. And so on Friday night, the United States Senate decided by a slim majority to pick the pockets of the poor, the sick, the old, and the yet unborn in order to line the pockets of the ultra rich. Don't tell me about gangsters and thugs on the streets. There are more gangsters and thugs in Washington, D.C., in the Capitol, than there are. A bunch of
So that was in response to the 2017 Trump tax cut bill passing, and it was also the best thing that Warnock's ever said. That's his best moment on video, brought to you by someone who works for the NRSC, believing that that video is gonna own Warnock. What is wrong with people? I tweeted, what kind of mold has to be infesting your brain for you to watch that and think, oh, we got him. He said that giving trillions of dollars to the ultra wealthy makes them thugs. Yeah, that's like the nicest way to characterize that, actually.
Yeah, no, I'm just like lot of love, lot of endearment, and also like, let's never forget that the fake populism from the right claims to say the same things, that you're being robbed, that everyone in the White House or in Washington is, like they're the swamp and they're all corrupt, except they are actually the swamp, except they just want more and more swamp and they're the swamp creatures. Like they've only made it more swampy. And yet when Warnock says something or if Bernie says something, well, then they're anti-American. Well, then they're terrible. We should drag them through the mud. So like, yeah, the double standard around if you're progressive, if you're black, and you call out corruption in Washington, ooh. But if Trump wants to co-opt your message and he wants to lift everything you say, like he's lifted Bernie's lines, wholesale and repackage it as his own fake right-wing populism. Oh wow, genius, amazing, wins elections.
Yeah. Exactly, it's just sheer madness. And look, they've been trying to make him out to be some crazy, like they call Pete Buttigieg a communist, but they're trying to call him a communist and all of that, make him out like Kelly Loeffler's strategy was to just keep calling him radical liberal Warnock over and over and over. And the thing is, okay, maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll scare Georgia away from him personally. He ain't that crazy to the left, by the way. Like there's plenty that we disagree with him on. But I will also say, if he's able to get enough of his ads out and get it in front of enough people, the thing he has going for him is, even though I disagree with him on some things in politics, there is something sort of fundamentally likable about him. And not just that he can do videos, from when he was a pastor like what we just showed you. But I also want to show you his ad strategy. Here's one of his most recent ones, Encourage People ad, just came out today. And just tell me that you can watch this and not think that stood up next to Kelly Loeffler, whose best case scenario, the best interpretation of her is that she's a robot. Who thinks that this guy isn't likable?
There's a lot of stuff to do this time of year. Get the tree. Done. Hang the lights. Not yet. Wrap presents. Check. But this year, there's one extra thing to do. Vote. That's right. Early voting starts December 14th. So make voting part of your holiday plans. It'll probably take you less time than it'll take me to do this. I'm Raphael Warnock, and I approve this message.
I mean, I'm sorry, that's likable. Is that not likable? Am I crazy? Am I just getting like pulled in like?
That's a good writer. That is a good writer.
I was like, that's good.
I was like, where's that lights joke going? It comes back in the end, gets you. That's a great callback. Oh, it's hard not to like that. Wow. And it's like zero political. It's like he really doesn't even say what he's about, which and like, I know as progressives, we hate that. We hate that like it's only about, likability. We insist that it's about policy and it's always about, but it's like, actually it's not. Like it is about coming across as human and as relatable. And maybe that sounds icky to people, but I actually think it's a good thing to also have that. And by the same token, you need face-to-face contact. You need direct conversations with people. And I know folks in Georgia are still knocking doors because they realize the value of that. Obviously, they're doing it safely. But once again, it's like, I know we have an allergic reaction to being like, oh, why are you trying to be cute? Just tell me if you're for Medicare for all. And like, sadly, that is not the way politics are played. And that's sadly not the way you win.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, we can want both.
Yeah.
And the right, man, it's like Sean Hannity will show like, here's like the radical agenda of the squad, and he shows like all these policies that are awesome. Or like, do you remember the ultimate example of this? And I don't know, there should be a term for this when something that is objectively awesome is pitched as a thing that's gonna destroy someone. Do you remember when they thought they were gonna like make a fool out of or destroy AOC with her college dancing video? And it's like the most joyous video I've ever seen. Like there are videos of people like feeding pizza to a pack of chubby raccoons that are less joyous than her dancing this flower of youth. And they're like, we got her, she's going down now. Like they are so out of touch, not just politically, but with like something fundamental to being a human, to being happy, to living in the light.
Look at her smiling and moving her body in squiggle ways. What to the sound of words that have a beat harmony. Like
exactly. They're worse than the Footloose villain. Just don't get it.
They're all the Footloose villain. Everyone, the GOP is just the Footloose villain. But like, I know when that video was about to drop, I was like, oh no, here we go. This is my college video. Someone's drunk. And high. We're double faded. What's going on? Like I don't know, or like. This is some Mardi Gras thing. No, it's like an adorable, and it wasn't like for a cause. It was like for her class and stuff, and it was.
Yeah, it was totally, and it didn't matter if she just did it. It's joy. Yeah. You know what people want? You know what people would support? Moving in squiggle ways 2024. That's what people want. Okay, that's what people want. You know what people don't want? This upcoming story, which we'll get to in just a minute after we read a couple of comments. Let's see. John Person says many EC votes so far today included a verbal warning that electors refusing to follow the vote or abstaining will be replaced with alternates. Interesting, thank you. Oh, and by the way, some state houses had to be like shut down because of the threat of terrorism and violence. So another great product of the Trump era. Let's see. Franz Meyer says Trump's crack legal team on crack got more positive results from COVID than in the courts. They got monkey meds so they won't need the vaccine. They didn't wear masks or socially distance. Exactly. Okay, Jay Fergie says, Skater Dragon checking in. Dragon versus Kraken shirt done yet? No, unfortunately not. I really want to see that. If any graphics people are watching this in our team, please.
Dragon versus Kraken, ooh, that sounds busy.
By the way, very large super chat from Terry Clements, who says, love you guys. Terry, thank you for that, I appreciate that. It was a very succinct super chat, but very much appreciated, thank you. Let's see. LMB says churches are tax exempt entities. They aren't allowed to engage in politics. GOPs are getting too deep in the weeds. That's their point. Yes. Hector's Travel says, I appreciate y'all not point the camera up your noses. I try not to. Not go lower, I guess. Anyway, over on Twitch, Shy Hot Dog, I think was talking. Was it about Trump in the interview, saying Trump reminds me of the Brian Fellows skit back on SNL in the day, which I actually just watched. Tracy Morgan a couple years ago hosted, and they brought that back a little bit. The bugger says Stephen Miller is that devil dude in every movie that makes the deals. Yeah, and then suffers the physical consequences of it. Okay, let's see. On Twitter at hashtag TDR Live, Rachel Rhodes says, hey, John and Fran, on FRANtastic Mondays is my brain's first cup of coffee for my week. I like that. And to do it, I need my first cup of coffee and my second, sometimes my third. Let's see. Tom Zawacki has forwarded us a Bernie Sanders tweet that says, as a result of the pandemic, tens of millions of Americans are facing economic desperation. They can't afford to pay their rent and face eviction. They can't afford to go to the doctor. They can't afford to feed their children, and they're going deeper and deeper into debt. And he, in that thread, will push for aid in this COVID relief bill. Unfortunately, I'm now hearing that the Republicans are spreading this tweet as evidence that Bernie sucks and that he's gonna go down. No, not effective. Okay. Now with that, let's move on to the next story. I want there to be a term for this thing that happens in the news. I think only in America. I think this is the only place that has it, which is the feel-good story that is only feel good until like you're done seeing the headline, and then you sit back and you think about the country that was required to make that story. Well, I've got one for you. Linda Tutt High School in Sanger launched a grocery store in November so students could purchase necessities, including toilet paper, meat, and basic food items. They pay for their purchases by earning points from good deeds. The high school partnered with First Refuge Ministries, Texas Health Resources, and the grocery store Albertsons to open the store, which is completely run by students who manage the inventory, stock the shelves, and help other students find and bag the products they need. You can see a picture actually here of what it looks like. You can see obviously the big toilet paper and the Easy Mac. If you go with the Easy Mac, you're gonna wanna have the toilet paper soon after, but those are staples, I get that. And we have a comment from a principal in Linda Tutt that says, in our school district, there's roughly 2,750 students enrolled, and throughout the district, 43% of these students are considered economically disadvantaged. About 3.6% of our students are considered homeless. We thought it was important to support them and their families and make sure they had food on the table. So that is a feel-good story that by doing good deeds, tutoring people, helping old women across the street, I don't know, whatever, they can earn points to get their toilet paper and meat and mac and cheese. Feel-good story for you.
We are means testing toilet paper. That's literally what that is. It's like, oh no, you deserve to be able to, wipe your own butt. But first, you gotta put in 30 hours of like, community service or whatever. Like, this is not a right as a human being. I mean, yeah, it's very upsetting. And yeah, we're gonna have news stories in 2021 that are like, some of us are still alive. Like, don't we get a cookie for that? No, there are no cookies. It's all depressing. It's like it reminds me of when George W. Bush, this was that classic line where he like talks to a woman who was like, I work 4 jobs. And he was like, see that's the American spirit, working 4 jobs. We work 4 jobs here. Yeah, that's our hard work. And it was like, no, you miss the point of that entirely. But
yeah, it's like you might see like an old timey story of like a fireman who gets a kitten out of a tree, but like that, it's not good that the kitten was in the tree. We don't want to keep putting kittens in trees. Like just because something is saved doesn't mean it's a good thing. So by the way, if you are involved in this program, if you work for Albertsons or whatever, or you're part of the school system or anything like that, you're all good people because you're doing what you can. I'm glad that you're doing it and everything. but none of this should be necessary. None of this should exist. This can only exist because our country is fundamentally a failure in many of the ways that matter most. And so just like when someone who has cancer and has no insurance can raise $100,000 on GoFundMe, that is a good thing, but it is a good thing that can only exist in a country that doesn't properly value the life of its citizens.
Yeah. And a country that has this like bizarre hero worship of people who overcome all odds and leave, and leave their communities behind and lift themselves up by the bootstraps, which is a totally BS myth anyway. I'm sure you all know, but like we love that outlier. It doesn't matter that 399 people are dead if it's that 400th person that managed to not die in squalor. Wow. Lift them up, and that is no way to run a society. It's a great way to write a Hallmark film. It's a great way to write a movie script. But we don't live in that movie anymore, sadly. We live in an incredibly unequal country.
Exactly. You know what? I love that you ended that way. How unequal things are, because I want to shift to the other side. So there are people who have to do good deeds to earn easy Mac. And then there's people who are just gonna have stuff handed to them, even though nobody can seem to explain why. So let's talk about Pete Buttigieg again. When last we checked in with Pete Buttigieg, he was about to become the ambassador to China. Why? But now he might become our next Secretary of Transportation under Joe Biden. The possible nomination would vault the 2020 Democratic presidential candidate into the federal government, getting the former South Bend, Indiana mayor what many Democrats see as needed experience should he want to run for president again. Of course, to be fair, they also said that about the China thing, that he would need that foreign policy experience, as if having been the ambassador to China is a thing that's gonna sway literally anyone in the next primary. But now, having been the head of the Department of Transportation is exactly the experience he needs, Francesca, to be president material in 4 years.
Hi, yeah. I've my whole camera setting changed. I apologize. No, look.
What is going on? Is Pete Buttigieg in charge of your Skype setup? What is going on right now?
Yes, this is what happens when you talk bad about Buttigieg. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, John.
It's okay. Why don't you just talk and people will
do this.
Look at me. Well, why don't we bring up some B-roll of Pete Buttigieg while she talks? There we go.
Can you still hear me?
I can see you now.
Okay, good. Sorry. I just never fumble with your setup while this is happening. I just got really excited about Buttigieg. First of all, it is in dispute whether his experience in South Bend was actually a positive one. I think the residents of South Bend would say otherwise, especially when it comes to things like housing and infrastructure. So transportation, I'm gonna pass on that. I'm gonna say, yeah, on like China, sure, why not? It feels much more in his like Harvard-esque lane. He probably speaks Mandarin already.
Nope, he doesn't. I checked. He speaks many languages, but not the one that they were gonna
whatever. Like Arabic is Mandarin in a way, and he went to an Ivy League school. The point is, he's entitled and he deserves it. Give it to me. But it is just painful though, because I think I heard Cenk say the other day, that like Bernie lost, and it's true, Bernie lost. And at once when I truly thought there would be more of an overture to progressives, instead I feel like there's been an overture to people like Buttigieg, who's like, well, Buttigieg has gotta be on the cabinet. Like, I mean, I don't know if he's the future of the Democratic Party, because I don't know what his politics are. Like, he writes a whole essay about how he loves Bernie Sanders in college, and now he just started punching left the entire time during the primary about how like we want Medicare for those who want it. Like, God. So I don't know who he is actually, but I definitely know he's not qualified to be president. So this is better than that.
I guess, although I would say, like, in that graphic they say many see as needed experience should he want to run for president. Okay, that's true. I think the idea that people are gonna be in 3 years, gonna be like, oh, did he run the Department of Transportation? Well, then let me take a look at it. No, that's not how it works any more than the China thing. That's just not how primaries work, but whatever. They wanna be able to say he's experienced, so that's fine. But what about the experience you need to run the Department of Transportation? I don't know exactly what day-to-day that requires, but I'm assuming it requires something other than just having been the mayor of South Bend for a couple of years. What about that experience? Why don't we treat these departments as something serious that matters? Why don't we do that? Remember how frustrated again we were with like Ivanka always being around, and why is Jared Kushner in charge of everything? It's an unserious way of governing. This is an unserious way of governing, and it's not just about him. For this post, multiple Democrats have been considered, including Rahm Emanuel, Eric Garcetti, and also the governor of Rhode Island. I don't know about the governor of Rhode Island. Maybe Gina Raimondo has a lot of like experience with transportation, but just because they were mayors doesn't mean they're the right person to manage the infrastructure of our entire country. It is not a consolation prize. It's an important job of its own. And it isn't just supposed to be handed out so theoretically Pete Buttigieg will look a little bit better in a couple of years. And by the way, let me cut to the core of their assertion here, which is he's a rising star.
Right.
But they need to give this to him because they say, well, he's in Indiana and it's moving right, so can he really rise? No, but then he's not a rising star. He's a being lifted star. If he could rise, he wouldn't need you to hand him a position he's not qualified for. That's what you give to a person who ain't gonna rise unless you help them out.
Absolutely.
And so you're fundamentally cutting against your own thesis here by saying, well, I don't know, I guess we'll give him labor, or maybe he can be like a general or something.
But and what's interesting about this, I think that the Kamala Harris pick for Veep was definitely, to me, not surprising politically, because I think politically they're more in line, but surprising because Kamala very much, called Biden on some of his BS, especially around busing. Buttigieg went to bat for Biden like multiple times during the primaries, right? Was always more politically on his side. Someone that was in the Obama administration, who I actually really like, who also ran for president, is Julian Castro. He was the Secretary of HUD under Obama, and he was great, but he also kind of criticized Biden from both a progressive perspective, was much more on the Bernie end. And I think at one point, like called Biden on the fact that he literally just repeated what he had said like a couple times. He was like, you just said that, I know, we heard you, what are you talking about? And it's like, ooh, can't name that, can't, but yeah, Buttigieg, Buttigieg, the entitlement, he's like, the entitlement of, yes, being lifted from a small town mayor. And I will say, I don't like Garcetti and I do not like Rahm Emanuel, but at least their cities are bigger. LA doesn't count in terms of having public transportation because we don't have.
I mean, we've expanded the metro a little bit or whatever, but not
really, not really under Garcetti. But yeah, so I don't know about that. Rahm, but you know what I mean? You can make the case because they have like, these are actual metropolises.
Yeah. I hate the whole thing. I hate this approach to governing. You find the most qualified person, that's what you should do. If he wants to run for president, he can figure out a way to do that. Like maybe appealing to one person who isn't ghostly white. That would be a good first step. And I don't think the Department of Transportation is gonna clinch that significant flaw of his. Anyway, thank you, Francesca, for joining us. I feel a little bit better. I was launching into this week just hating politics and political commentary and all of it, but I feel a little bit better. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's because I'm amazing.
That's probably what it is. You're a rising star, you know what? You don't need to be lifted. But anyway, let's talk about your rising star.
Lift me, please. Pick me up.
By the way, like Bernie Rarcy, if you want to lift me, you can lift me. I'll do whatever. I'm not qualified for it, but this is politics. Apparently, you don't have to be.
Oh my God, press secretary John Iadarola. Oh, any day.
Disaster.
Any day. Yes. No. You could do it.
I'd like to see you do it. Actually, that would be pretty good.
Oh, bad idea. You mean I would put my foot in my mouth like? Oh God. I can't even get the sentence out.
You're gonna be quoted by Maggie Haberman as talking about cuddle puddles in regards to infrastructure reform. Anyway.
Yeah. She said, quote, show me the undies. You can listen to my podcast, The Bitchuation Room, which is equal parts comedy and politics and analysis, and follow me on Instagram or Twitter at FrannyFio.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you as always.
Take care.
And for those of you at home, let me read just a few more of your comments, tweets, and super chats. Let's see. Jane Grady says, love watching your show. Thank you. I love when you watch our show. Really do appreciate that. Kay Smilin says, please allow me to claim Smilin' Dragon. Love TDR. Honestly, honesty helps daily. Thank you kindly. It's yours. Thank you for that. Very nice of you. Trinintula says, I want to be Spider Dragon. Please read. I read it. Thank you. Okay. Jorman Garter, the Nordic Serpent, that's a cool name, says Francesca Fiorentini is best co-host. Well, it has been stated by the Nordic Serpent. Thank you. Adam Fogarty says, I still think Release the Kraken was her way of telling us she was on the toilet. I think that was for Francesca. She likes that stuff. Thank you. Okay. Dranoa says he felt natural, talking about Warnock, not inauthentic, which is how Loeffler comes across. Those jeans, plaid, and vest was a costume. Totally. Okay, C-Dub says, the first time I went to donate blood, they couldn't get enough blood back in high school. Yeah, maybe that'll be one of the good deeds people can do to earn toilet paper money. Still can't believe it. Let's see. Shady Puppy says, just saying, if we're going to keep Purdue accountable, we should get Loeffler's name correct as well. Pretty sure she pronounces it Leffler. Really? I get what you're saying. I appreciate the desire for consistency. Anyway, feel free. Anybody watching this, if you'd like to change the way you pronounce your name, feel free. Let's see, Dragonborn says, the stand is a good allegory for 2020. This is on #TDR Live. Trump is all like Randall Flagg, the trash can man, has COVID in his life. I actually haven't read or watched The Stand. I need to get around to that, but I think they're remaking it. So maybe I'll be able to do that this time around. Anyway, thank you to everybody who joined us for this show. Very glad to have you back and watching this new week. We're gonna get through it as we always do. And we're gonna get through it with some specials as well. Because coming up at 8:30 PM Eastern time today, myself and Ben Dixon and Cenk Uygur and a whole bunch of awesome people are gonna be doing a special to get out the vote for Georgia. We're gonna be giving you information about the actual voting process, organizations and activists that you can support if you're outside of the state and you wanna help out. We're gonna show you some awesome ads from throughout it. We got like a whole bunch of awesome stuff planned for a couple of hours. So that's gonna be fun. And also get ready for tomorrow when our annual Turks and Jerks special is gonna happen, which I'm gonna be hosting for the first time ever. I see it as basically like a gigantic garbage people segment. So that should be a lot of fun. We got a lot of great stuff planned for this week. So definitely stay tuned. And until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.